So thanks for everyone for coming. This is our final day of Creativity Week for the Sideshow. Really excited to have Aaron and James here today. They collectively are Mount Freelance, as you already know because you're tuning in. We're super excited to have them. It's going to be a super fun, informative talk about starting a side business. But we also want to thank them because they were our key sponsor to get this to happen this year. They sponsored our Best in Show prize, so it's the Mount Freelance Best in Show. And we will be announcing the awards tonight. We'll be posting the award show video on our website at 8 p.m. Eastern. And, you know, like I said, these guys have been prolific in their career, enough to the point that they could legitimately write the book on how to freelance. And just can't say it enough. So happy to have them here. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Josh, and the Sideshow.
Yeah. We do have a little slideshow for the Sideshow. So let me work on that, and let's see if this gets going. Okay, Andrew.
And as Aaron's doing that, I'll just say again, thank you all for being here. And yeah, we were super when we heard about the Sideshow. We got really excited and wanted to come on board, both because Aaron and I have done a lot of side projects. We were just telling Josh in the warm up that we both got our entree into Wieden+Kennedy from a side project, despite having, you know, all this other work we were proud of. And Mount Freelance, which we'll talk about a little bit, really is a side project. So I think just to kind of set the table, we're going to introduce ourselves a little bit, talk about kind of how Mount Freelance came to be and what it is, and then offer some couple pieces of advice. But then we know, I think when we were getting ready for this, we had the perhaps obvious insight that you are probably here because you have your own side project that you are looking to turn into a side business or have already turned into a side business. So we want to make sure there's plenty of time for questions, and you know, we'll do our best to answer or just offer ideas. And I think that's what Aaron and I really love the most about starting Mount Freelance is just fielding questions and offering ideas and brainstorming and just trying to help people you know, get to wherever they're trying to go.
Andrew, I got a question for you.
Hit me.
Is that you?
That is,
right there?
oh my gosh, it is.
Yeah. Could you tell us how you got going in this this little creative world that we live in? It's
the less slouchy version of me, where I've got better posture. Yeah. So I think real quick. So I spent my 20s into my 30s. Kind of trying to have a career as an artist, was creatively successful, not so much financially, but was, you know, making movies and playing music and doing performing. And then had a happy accident where I ended up in advertising at Wieden+Kennedy Portland, actually based on a performance that I did of all things, and had a great time there for about a great time, but a hard time. It's a hard place to work for about 8 years. And I got to run the 12 program, which was really fun, kind of this in-house ad school. And then like many freelancers, became freelance when I got laid off about six years ago, and have been freelance ever since as a copywriter. But I thought, you know, I think, again, we want to share insight and advice. And I think one of the things, you know, I've always had side projects. You know, I think like most creative people, I've always been doing stuff. You know, first I was really trying to be an artist, and I keep doing things on the side. And probably my biggest sideline, about 12 years ago, I was asked by an arts organization to host their gala and get up on stage and ask for money. And I realized that as much as it's really hard to ask people for money, for me, it's really easy if I'm asking for like a school or an arts organization. So I have this sort of sideline as an auctioneer and MC, hosting fundraisers, and I still perform a lot of my own stuff. And for the last 8 years, up until the pandemic, I was lucky enough to host the Moth storytelling show here in Portland, like once a month. And I share that partly to say, I think when I think about my side business, it's Mount Freelance, which we'll talk about. You know, I have a business partner you'll meet in a minute, and we have business meetings and business calls, and we have, you know, business papers with, you know, LLC with the state of Oregon, or I guess we're actually a C Corp. But meanwhile, for the last 12 years, I've been having what I call a sideline of auctioneering and performing And when I think about it, and I was thinking about it this morning, I mean, I have spent so many hours on that work. It's so fulfilling. And I've actually made, if you add it up, quite a bit of money over the last 12 years. You know, these are often paid gigs, but I don't think of it as a side business. So, you know, you may be in the situation where you already have sort of something that you're treating as a sideline or a side hustle. And I think Aaron and I are such big proponents of kind of a mentality shift. You know, it's a big part of being a successful freelancer is treating it as a business. And so I think a big part of Mount Freelance too is Aaron and I telling ourselves, like telling people things that we need to hear ourselves. So I'm telling myself that I have two side businesses. I have Mount Freelance, but I also have this business as a performer, facilitator, MC. And, you know, I really need to do things to take that more seriously. So if you've got that sort of sideline or side hustle, I think just trying to think of it as a business, all of a sudden you start behaving differently, and it can become more successful by treating it more seriously. And with that, I will hand it over to my side business partner, Aaron James. There he is.
Hey, there I am. So Andrew and I met through mutual friends. And Andrew, at one point was a SAG actor. Are you still officially SAG, or
I'm on hold. I'm on hold, so I don't get the.
You're on hold for SAG. But I was able to cast Andrew in a commercial, and we had kind of been in similar circles before that. But we did a commercial for a music festival where he ran a focus group with a bunch of moms and had them explain how they thought the band sounded based on their name. It was a really fun project. You know, I got into, I had a friend tell me, hey, I think you might like advertising. I had worked in the music industry. I had worked in a few other interesting kind of stops along the way. Worked for the Oakland A's baseball team for a while. And met a friend. He said, hey, you'd be good at advertising. So I actually kind of started dipping my toe into this world when I was 28. So, you know, when I see people that are you know, younger and have an idea of what they actually want to do, and maybe even have an idea of like what they're good at a younger age, I'm really excited for them, because you know, that's just not not something I got to figure out until much later. But you know, I ended up working at a couple of places, or actually my first job was a smaller agency in Portland. I got laid off, and you know, when you walk out the door after getting laid off, I'd never been laid off before. It's a horrible feeling. So if you've gone through that, Andrew and I can both relate to just how that affects a creative person, and just kind of how that, you know, just what kind of obstacles that puts up for you. I within a few days got a job freelancing. So I guess I was freelance. I end up, one thing led to another, and I was interviewing at Wieden+Kennedy for a freelance position about a month later, and had a horrible book. But I had come on recommendation from some really great people, and you know, and now that looking back, I realized they grossly underpaid me for that time. And I freelanced for about a year straight for them. And I actually got the green light to join the Heineken team based on a comic book that I had made for my church. So that was a side project. It was this kind of irreverent, thoughtful kind of thing around holiday gift giving, and kind of like rethinking that. And so when I was able to do that, you know, so my side project is kind of what got me in the door there. Since that point, I've been able to freelance with, you know, one of my favorite spots is a place called Camp Grizzly here in Portland, kind of a youth oriented kind of agency that does a lot of Adidas work. At one point, I was a partner and part-time director for Farm League, which is a production company out of Venice that is still doing really awesome work. I love those guys. And I've always been kind of entrepreneur at heart. And I think I've had some big swings and misses. My wife actually opened a retail store that ended up being a big lesson. I've been partners in agencies that haven't quite gotten off the ground, but it's just something that's in my blood to just take that idea that you work on the side and say, hey, where can I go with this? So that's kind of like where a lot of these ideas have come from. And I think what we like to say, the good news is, if you are freelance and you freelance the right way, you can unlock the time and the money and the space to actually bootstrap and kind of bet on yourself and try some of these ideas. And I think Sideshow is like a really great example of that, where you take your opportunity, and right now it may not be money, it might be time, with COVID kind of slowing us down a little bit. But there are ways to really ignite and activate those ideas. And freelance, I love freelance because of that. Like, that's actually the reason why I freelance, is I want the freedom to pursue these things. And Andrew and I have talked about, I want to work on my own brands. I don't want to just always give my ideas, my talents, my time, my effort, my late nights to, Tropicana Juice. I've never worked for them. I'm sure they're lovely, but that's not really what gets me up in the morning. Andrew, I think, I think when we started Mount Freelance, it actually started, Andrew and I were freelancing at an agency, pitching a project for them, or actually a agency of record account, which we helped them win. But during that time is when we hatched the idea of, okay, Mount Freelance. And I'll hand it over to you in a second, but I wanted to get this one out of the way. We realized we were working, and I said, hey, where are you going? And he goes, oh, I'm going for coffee, meet with so-and-so. And I said, hey, oh, that's funny. I have to actually duck out early because I'm meeting so-and-so for a beer, and we're going to talk about how to freelance. And we started realizing, I was like, how many of these, coffees and beers, I mean, this is unhealthy how much coffee and beer we're having. Like, so I think Andrew and I really talked about, like, okay, I'm getting like 2 or 3 of these inquiries a week from friends or friends of friends. And it's just like, hey, this is actually something we can help people with. So I've been rambling, but
yeah, no. And part of it too is, I think we were realizing, like, it was always people who were, had just been laid off or were interested in getting into advertising, and they wanted to know how to freelance. And we were just sharing the same advice over and over again. It's like, all right, you need a portfolio website. Here's how to make a great portfolio website. Here's, and so, yeah, we sort of hatched this plan to create, kind of this course and community, so it's Mount Freelance is on the one hand, we spent a good year kind of figuring out what it was going to look like, and then kind of outlining, at first I was like, is there really enough to teach and share as far as how to freelance successfully? And once we got into it, we just realized there's so much to it. We're not teaching anyone how to be a better copywriter or designer or film editor, but it's really like how to position yourself to get work, how to get the work that you want, how to network, how to reach out to recruiters, how to charge, the different ways to charge, how to juggle projects, how to communicate so that you don't, I think most problems with freelance happen in that initial, like when you're, engaging with the client, it's always like not asking enough questions and not being on the same page. So we've got, this sort of huge hours and hours of video. And then the other cool piece to it is we've got a Facebook community that members join. And that's really where people share advice, people post their portfolios and get reviews from each other. And we launched it, I think, last July, and it's been really fun. For I think we'll get into this in a minute. Aaron has had more experience with businesses, but this is really the first business that I sort of entered into, calling it a business and thinking about it. And the fun of it is, there's so many different ways to go with it. I think, we've got, what's our big news, Aaron? Next.
Well, I was going to say there's basically two types of people out there that kind of knock on our door, and that we come across. Number one is really experienced people that are experienced in the advertising world or the creative world, but also know that with a couple of tactics, they could actually start really protecting their time more or making more money like pretty easily. And they just know if they could employ some new tactics, that would be really helpful, whether it's a negotiation or that type of thing. The other one are just people either that have been laid off, a lot of it, through COVID stuff potentially, or we're also seeing just a number of people that they know that that's what they want. They want the flexibility. They want to be able to kind of call some of the shots. They're maybe worn out working on the same projects or the same brands like constantly. And they want the variety. They want to work in more places. They want to meet more people. That's the other type of person. And the big announcement was going to be that we are launching a new podcast that nobody knows about yet except for people on this, and we can't tell you any more than that.
Breaking news.
Oh yeah, that's always fun. So I have a couple other businesses. One is the Hitting Vault. It's a 5-year-old business. I started it on the side with another friend of mine. And it actually teaches people, it's almost like kind of a guided master class on how to hit. And it's for baseball and softball. And that's been basically the success of this business is what kind of led me to kind of launch another one. Thankfully, this business is still going strong. It has a staff. It does 7 figures a year. It's just like a very exciting kind of like entree into business. And we learned, this was the guinea pig where I learned a lot. The other one is Howler magazine. Myself and an ex Nike executive actually bought Howler magazine and saved it from demise. And my way of describing Howler is it's a critically acclaimed, wildly unsuccessful soccer magazine. I would highly recommend not buying a print magazine if that's kind of where you're thinking. Let's have a sidebar. Let's talk about that before you do it. But let's maybe get into just a few of the things that we've learned, and some of these are kind of general. Some of this is common sense, but most of the time, Andrew and I have found we know, each of us probably knows what to do. Deep down, we need a reminder and we need some accountability, and we need to kind of reinforce the fact that yes, we're doing the right thing. Andrew, maybe we can kind of start with this. We talk about kind of just having a goal, but starting a business is a lot of work. It's very fun. I'll say, one kind of confession for me in the world of advertising is I am very good at solving problems from an advertising standpoint or from a creative standpoint, but I wouldn't say, now that I've worked with like hundreds of extremely talented creative people, I'm not the raw, just like instantly thinking of good ideas. I'm the grind it out, solve the problem guy, more so than the, wildly creative, innovative, just idea machine that some gals or guys might be. When I look at a business, I look at it as like, what is the problem we can solve out in the world? What are people looking for? What are the obstacles for people in their lives, and can our business solve a problem? It might be that they just need really, really good maple syrup on their pancakes, And if that's the case, and you have a maple syrup brand, then you are solving a problem. But I do, it's not always like an information problem solving kind of situation, but every single one of my businesses that I've worked on does solve a problem, or it fills a void that needs to be filled out in the world. So I think that's good.
I think even, some of you may be working on a business that is, a product or membership. I think even if your side business is, we have actually had a couple members who say, I've started to do these portraits for friends and I post them online and people see them and now they want to buy them. Like, should I sell them? And we're like, yes, of course. I think so. Even sometimes, it might be, if your side business is kind of your art, it may be, an image or an idea or an insight that doesn't exist out in the world yet, and by putting it out there, you are solving the problem of sort of people realizing they need to see that image or they need to see that idea expressed. We have a friend from actually before Wieden+Kennedy, but we were there too. Our friend Robin has this great product called Bobby's Boat Sauce, and sort of the sea of condiments. She created a new one. You can look it up on your internet, Bobby's Boat Sauce. And she actually had a sabbatical from Wieden+Kennedy, was on a boat with her friend and kind of made this sauce out of what was around. And it's like, it's very umami. It's got like fish sauce, and it's like a mix of fish sauce, ketchup, and hot sauce. And it's, it's a little more challenging, maybe introducing something brand new, but it was really cool. Like she saw this thing didn't exist. There's no sauce quite like it. And you try it and you're like, wow. And some people, it's not their thing. And then some people just eat it raw. It fills needs so basic for their palate.
Yeah. And I will say, to kind of bring it back to the problem idea, is you're going to hit a lot of moments of where you just are kind of like, do I really want to be doing this? Is this really what I want to be spending my time on? Or this, a lot of experimentation, especially into like building an audience. I think one of the hardest things to do is to build an audience. But if you're solving a problem that's really helping to change people's lives, Andrew and I really find that helping people freelance, making their life better, allowing them to reach their goals. Maybe their goal is to spend more time at home, which is probably not their goal right now. But, I feel like that can be a real North Star to kind of keep you going on your projects. You want to jump in on this one, Andrew?
Yeah, I think, again, pretty basic, but this is actually like as I was sort of alluding to earlier, I think a huge part of Mount Freelance is like, why are you freelancing? Like, and what is your goal? And I think, business people, they go to business school, they learn how to put together a business plan. So I think especially for creative people, actually asking yourself, like, what do you want out of this business? Like, what is the goal? Is it to make money? Is it to just have a bigger reach so that you get more freelance work or get a better full-time job? Are you, kind of, and then really mapping that out. And again, if this isn't your forte, I think to work with someone or to do some homework on how to put a plan together. But if you kind of don't know where you want to go, you're not going to get there. And I think, even with Aaron's experience, I think we got so excited about creating the Mount Freelance course and kind of figuring out how this community was going to work, that it wasn't until it was launched that I remember Aaron texting me one afternoon, like, hey, what do you want out of Mount Freelance? And it was like, oh, that's a really good question. And so, again, I think is the sooner you can really put some time into like figuring out where this thing goes and what your goals are, then you can start working to them rather than just like trying to make it as successful as possible or seeing where it goes. There's going to be some of that, but as much structure as you can have. And I think especially when we're talking about a side business versus a main, it's one thing if you're starting a restaurant, that's your life. But if you have a side business, really, it'll take as much time as you give it, but if you don't give it any time, it's not going to succeed. So really having some structures in place and having some scheduling and really being pretty diligent about knowing what a year out is going to look like as far as time commitment and goals and all those sorts of things.
Yeah. So our next little thing that we've learned is building a team, and I think that, you know, there's talk in business of like, what is your unfair advantage? Like, what talent or superpower do you have that you bring to the table that no one else can really do, or gives you a real edge over competition, or that type of thing. And one of the real important things that I've learned across all these businesses is, you know, I'm curious. I want to learn things. I want to do some things like, you know, understanding finance, or maybe social media stuff, or, you know, it's like, but you know, I cannot be my own accountant. There's no reason for me to do that. It's just keep building, keep doing the core thing that you're good at, that will bring in revenue, bring in you know, assets essentially to distribute to people that are specialists on certain things. There's so many, you know, Andrew and I talk about it. It's also the reason why there's so much demand for freelance, even before COVID, is just like, you know, a food cart isn't just like showing up and making like the crazy meatballs they make. They're doing procurement, they're doing you know, the actual cooking, they're doing marketing, they're doing social media, they're dealing with city permits, they're dealing with finances and accounting and bookkeeping. It's like taxes, all these things, right? So don't put that pressure on yourself that you think that you can do it all yourself. Like, start being realistic about what you're good at, and what you're not good at, what you enjoy, what you don't enjoy doing. And that's probably a great place to start in terms of building your team.
Yeah, just one little example. I think, you know, we launched Mount Freelance, and we were lucky that we got a nice piece in one of the trades, and we got, you know, Working Not Working did a big interview, and, you know, and then we sort of say, hey, to keep, you know, we out of the, you know, we got some exposure out of the gate, and then we said we should do some paid advertising. And we kept talking about it and talking about it and talking about it. And we actually didn't do any paid advertising until we hired someone to do it. And I think it just, you know, we just didn't have the time and the expertise. And, you know, so finding someone who was really good at it and knew how to do it, and was going to be able to take the time to look at analytics and, you know, test things. And, you know, and it is, you know, I think, again, kind of, if you know what your goal is, it's easier to say, hey, it's worth the investment now to hire these people. You know, I mean, I think one of the things we're, again, really proud with Mount Freelance is we hired a really good cinematographer editor to make the videos, and they turn out really, you know, they turn out really fun. So, you know, that was worth the investment. I think it's one of the reasons why there's good word of mouth about it, because people enjoy watching the videos because we had someone really good make them. And so, you know, these things really do pay off. All right, I think we've got one more piece of advice. Serve it up, Aaron.
Yeah. So this is this idea that no matter how you do business, you know, baking the ethics and the idea, you know, like basically having this thing be something that you really are proud of, because that keeps you working on it. One thing I'll say with my other business, the Hitting Vault, is it's kind of like this adage of the customer is always right. If there's somebody that isn't happy or wanted something different or that type of thing, it's just always a yes, you know. And we've been in business for 4 years, and there's literally not a bad review for that business online. And we're always kind of siding on the customer's side, and that's something that I learned earlier. It fit with how I want to do business. I want to sleep well at night, knowing that people are paying for a really, really quality product. I think that's important. Andrew's talked about, you know, how you treat employees. You know, I was on Fishbowl a couple nights ago, and I was curious because somebody posted something about like, what's a normal bonus look like, talking about Christmas bonuses or holiday bonuses. And I was just like pretty shocked to see how many agencies don't pay any bonuses. And, you know, it was like, you know, I don't know, there might've been a little drama in that little fishbowl app, but for me, it just is like, hey, you know, a mindset of abundance. It's gonna, if you keep taking care of people, it's gonna come back around. And that's been our experience. Andrew, you talked about charity from a business standpoint too, seeing what businesses can do.
Yeah, I mean, I think again, I mean, great businesses, you know, are not apolitical, you know. So, you know, we have, you know, spoken our mind, and you know, to and emailed our members and even non-members about Black Lives Matter. You know, we've given to organizations that we support. I mean, these are just things that you know, businesses, I think have a big role in kind of shaping our society. And you know, even if it's a small, you know, you're doing something small on the side, I think you can, you know, you can show up as yourself, but also as your business. You can give back. You can make your community stronger. You know, you can sponsor things that you believe in. You know, you can hire and partner through a lens of equity, and I think all these things are. It's never too soon to start doing these things. And you know, we're also, both as freelancers and as business people, huge proponents of giving gifts, like year-end gifts. That's one of Aaron's kind of secret weapons, is he just gives awesome gifts. And not only is it a tax write-off, not only is it a nice thing to do, but you know, especially if you are freelance, you know, giving an agency or a client that's really helped make your year good, a nice gift around December is not a bad career move, knowing that January can be a slow time. So and it's just kind of fun too, to not necessarily just give everyone the same thing, but you know, I think Aaron really picks out specific things for specific people. And yeah, it's kind of part of embracing the good part of what businesses can do, and how they can kind of shape our society, and you know, kind of help and reward people.
Yeah. So again, some of this is definitely just a reminder of what you know is right. But like, what we really wanted to do is like save some time for some specifics, like get into it. We'll tell you, you know, what we think. If we don't know, we'll say we don't know. But this time is for you guys, however you see fit. But so we can move on to the Q&A. And I will stop sharing, because now that we all know it's Q&A, there's no reason to have that up.
Yeah.
Hey, nice book collection, by the way.
Thank you. It goes on. Yeah, both my wife and I are both writers, so this was all in storage for a while, and through the power of IKEA, we were able to put all the books in one place.
It makes me want to learn how to read.
Right. We can help. So yeah. Oh,
I don't know if are there any?
I think there's a separate Q&A window. Here we go. So Andrew asks, not me, a different Andrew, in terms of freelance, is it viable to start freelancing while employed at an agency full time? I think, yeah, Aaron is nodding yes. Yeah, I think, I mean, if you were to use a Wieden+Kennedy example, if you were at Wieden+Kennedy and you had the opportunity to freelance for Adidas, I think that would be a big no-no. But otherwise, I think yes. And I think, I mean, it's one thing if your agency has a very specific, you know, you've signed a contract that says you can't. But otherwise, I mean, you've got free time. And I mean, you know, again, I think freelance can be about making money, but freelance can also be about helping businesses that really need help, especially now. So I think, yes, absolutely.
I will also say, I think some people, when they sing about freelance, if you were to do that, if you're just like, say, hey, I'm full-time at an agency, and either you're not busy and some other opportunities come up, it's just like, yeah, just make the money. If you're not happy, this is an opportunity for you to kind of get a rolling start into freelance. And if you could get 2 or 3 kind of small projects kind of going, or a relationship going, or hey, call me on the next one, or I will be, that could be a really great way to transition out. Freelance, I think is is really there's when I come in to an agency that I'm freelancing at, and let's say I don't even know anyone, I just kind of got in there. It's so nice to, it's just like everyone's pretty happy to see you. You're meeting new people. You're not at all involved with the drama of the agency, or mainly the drama they have with the client. You aren't worn out on it. You're fresh. So I think those are all kind of benefits that if you look at it kind of through a positive lens, I think it's okay to do that discreetly, especially if you're up for a change.
Nice. I love it. We've got 2 more questions. And of course, they're all about freelance, not starting our business, because we are freelance. All right. So I'm going to jump back in between these chats. Joshua asks, how do you approach pricing with your clients?
And I'm assuming that is as a freelancer, right? Not as
Joshua, if you want to elaborate on that, just to clarify, and then I'm going to jump to our anonymous attendee asks, what's been your biggest epic fail whilst freelancing, and how did you come back from it? Do you have a good epic fail?
I love that question. I'm going to think on that for a second.
Yeah. I think I've had a couple. I've had 2 jobs that have ended with a phone call, and I've noticed that the common denominator in both of those was my art director partner, who instigated the conflict that led to both of those projects ending abruptly. And I think the cool thing about freelance is you just it's on to the next. Literally, one of them was with Facebook, and weirdly one of them was with my old employer, Wieden+Kennedy, my one-time freelancing back with them. You just move on. You literally like Apple and Google don't know what happened between me and Facebook. And so, I think one of the things is, as freelance, I think when you start freelancing, there's kind of this tendency to think, I'm going to do one job and then that's going to end, and I'm going to do another job. But I think both for Aaron and I, we're jugglers. So, and it's not necessarily double dipping where you're making 2 day rates at once. That's a pro move, and it's a potentially dangerous one. But, I more often than not, clients don't need me full time. They need me. Maybe they think they'd need me full time, but they really don't, or they just come out and say, hey, we've got 2 months and we need, these are the deliverables, but we can't even pay you full time. So I think what has, I think, been really effective for both of us is having overlapping ongoing projects, so that you don't sort of, the job ends and then you have to find another one. So I think, and again,
I see our friend Peter Yu says, I am that art director. And the funny thing is, I thought for a second it was me, and I was trying to think back, gosh, what did I do? But actually now I actually remember who it is, and I'm not going to say his name, but it's not Peter Yu. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to read a question from Catherine. Okay. Freelance has been terribly slow for me this year. Okay. To stay sane and keep myself busy, I decided to launch a small business. I'm 4 months and $6,000 in, meaning I think that means investment. I now see freelance roles coming back, and I'm having trouble finding balance between pursuing my freelance work and continuing my small business. Any advice?
Ooh, that's one of those kind of awesome positions to be in. It's stressful, but like you have it sounds like 2 really good options.
Yeah, I would what I think is great about freelance is it doesn't have to be full time. So if you can kind of, it's basically kind of a continuation of what Andrew was just saying. If you can go and say, take a 2/3 job or a half-time job or a project fee that you know will allow you to kind of keep some time freed up, depending on what your small business is. I don't know what it is. It's possible that you could kind of work on it on nights and weekends to kind of continue to try to get to capitalize on the time and the investment that you've made into the business. There might be a way to bring on someone else to help you kind of like keep some mojo and keep some of the things moving on it. It just kind of depends on the business, but I think until you have a business that is stable in paying you what you need to live, and that it's kind of only getting more stable, I like to continue to freelance, because we know in freelance, if the right thing comes along, you can make enough in a month to cover 3 or 4 months, if you're being smart about it. So I would continue to try to keep both going, but that's, again, Andrew and I are jugglers. So
Yeah. I mean, I think another beauties of freelance is, like, say if you've got something that you're anticipating big holiday sales and you really want to carve out from here to December, the rest of the year, to really push on that. If I know we're fearful as freelancers, if we say no, that client will sort of push us down the list or cross us off completely. And so I think there's one of the tactics that we're such a big fan of is saying no, but in a way that keeps you top of mind. So like Aaron and I never turned down a freelance job without offering up 3 people who could do it instead of us. And there's an agency in LA that I said no to like 6 times, but they kept coming back to me. Truth is, I didn't actually want to work for them, but I just kept that door open. I just kept giving them more referrals to other people. So they started, even though I wasn't saying yes to the work, they kept coming back to me because they knew that I was always at least going to give them more people. So I think if you craft that no email, like, oh my gosh, I would so love to do this, but I'm busy. Or actually I wouldn't necessarily get into explaining your business being the reason, because that does raise the red flag, like, oh, okay, that's really what you want to do. But if you sort of say, hey, I'm booked, you don't have to get into why. I would love to do this. Please, I'm going to be free December 23rd, because that's when everything's going to be shipped. For example, if your business is something that goes in the mail, or actually with the post office these days, maybe it's more like December 14th. But just here's some other people, but really trying to keep that engagement going, and then even get back in touch with them when you are free. There's a way to say no, but keep your sort of leads hot so that you have time to work on your business when you need to. And then again, to Aaron's point, hiring someone to do the stuff that needs to happen, but you can delegate is pretty key.
We'll get to Lessa. We'll get to your question. Joshua clarified. He said, to elaborate, my studio partner and I have been experimenting with value-based pricing, but I don't feel like we're nailing it. That is like a pro move in my opinion, but it can work out really well. And I think that you have to keep experimenting with it. And value-based pricing is almost like, it's not even really something that we cover in Mount Freelance. In Mount Freelance, we talk about 3 different ways you can charge. One is hourly, one is a day rate, and one is a project rate. And we have a kind of extensive lessons on how to win with all 3 of those. Value-based pricing, as I understand it, is you might go to a business and say, all right, if this is gonna, we're gonna redo your branding and your website, and it's likely going to bump your business, 40% in revenue over the next X amount of time. We will do it on, that 5% bump. We'll take, if it's a 40%, we'll take 10% of that. And that's our payment. And it's basically, you're getting compensated based on the value you're adding to a company. It's tricky, but it also, for some people, it can really work. There is a resource out there, a friend of ours who does a lot more work around design stuff. His name's Chris Dew. You've probably seen him on if you've seen Gary Vee on LinkedIn, you've probably seen Chris Dew. And Chris has a business called The Future. But if you look on YouTube around value pricing, he has some actually really, really great videos that talk about that, and that would probably be a better resource than Andrew and I on that specific thing, because most freelancers, that's a little bit more like you're saying a studio. It's a little bit more like how a small agency might charge.
I will share anecdotally. I mean, I think it's a tricky one. I know of two agencies, one of which people would know of, one of which you wouldn't unless you're in Portland, but both of that have experimented with this, and they have both kind of privately shared with me that has never worked out with any of their clients. So I think, first of all, I would say avoid the weed business because it's oversaturated. If that's one of the businesses you're getting into, and yeah, I mean, I think that's where, you know, first of all, you have to have extreme faith that the business is going to be successful. Because I think that's where a lot of, you know, that's where you can really get into trouble, is if you're, you know, basically working on for future equity and years go by where you're where they just aren't turning a profit. But yeah, good resource.
So I'll read this one for you, Andrew, and then you answer it. Lessa says, I was in the nonprofit sector for 26 years and was let go in March. Took your course. Oh, awesome. You said awesome, but then I said awesome. You hit on something that made me perk up. You're correct. It is never too soon to associate your business with a cause of positive branding. Could be an interesting niche for me as through my years of experience thoughts. So the idea of associating a cause with your work.
Yeah, I think both yes to that. I think to kind of put your, you know, heart on your sleeve, as it were, and to be, you know, I think if we're talking about portfolio website, to talk about the you know, the organizations that you work with and that you support, and to sort of own that. But also, you know, I think agencies and clients and companies right now more than ever are really looking for ways to show up. And so there may even be some consulting work where you approach agencies or clients and you know, using that and leveraging that experience to help them do this. I know actually here in Portland, almost every nonprofit gala I've ever been a part of, the Standard is one of the sponsors, and they're just an insurance company, but they have decided that it's really important to give back, and they have someone, his only job is to figure out where they give money to. So I think they sort of stand out, but I think a lot more companies are really looking to, you know, again, I think as tax laws shift, and we're really, I think our government is sort of saying, hey, it's up to people and corporations to do some of the work to take care of vulnerable people and arts and education. So I think there probably is, that would really be worth exploring and reaching out to some of your clients and connections to see if there's some interest in kind of being a facilitator there.
I'll jump in real quick with my baseball business, which is just so you understand how the business is structured. It is like a masterclass. It's you pay an annual subscription fee. You get access to it for a year. If you want to keep going, you renew. So the benefit of a business like that is there's not a ton of hard costs once you've created the content and you've created kind of your marketing engine. The hard costs are essentially in marketing, not in the product itself. So when Hurricane Harvey, I think was Hurricane Harvey, that hit Houston really, really hard a few years ago, we had a bunch of contacts there that we wanted to help. So what we said is all the revenue from one day, and we promoted it as a sale, like you get a discount if you buy, but all the revenue goes to the a hurricane relief thing. And we were able to raise just over $6,000 that day and just give it away. And to me, it's like that would be an example of kind of baking in the good that you want in the world into your business. And so we continue to do things like that. And other businesses that have a lot of hard costs associated with the products they sell, or, you know, that type of thing, maybe can't do that, but there could be other ways that they do it. Maybe you're freeing up your employees to stop working on the business for a day and work for a nonprofit or a volunteer for something they believe in. You know, it's not just like US Bank who can like run some big ad that tells us about how all their employees volunteer. I mean, we can do that on a very small level as well. So I think that's important.
And then Catherine was also wondering, do you put your side biz in your portfolio? Do you list yourself as founder or creative director of your small biz on LinkedIn? I would say yes. I mean, I think, I mean, again, unless you're, you know, I think, I would say yes. I mean, I think to say no to a freelance job because I want to work on my side business is a red flag. But I think if you know, if it really feels like a side biz, I think that's going to make you seem more interesting. Again, it's a little case by case, but I mean, I have Mount Freelance as like the first project on my portfolio website. And, you know, obviously I think in that case, it helps, you know, it helps people. Oh my gosh, well, he's obviously committed to freelance. If he's created a whole business around freelancing, like he's not going to take a full-time job. And again, I think too, you know, in talking about building your team, I think one of the assets that make Aaron and I's partnership strong is I'm the writer, he's the art director. So, you know, as far as like writing and design are two pretty big needs for any kind of internet-based business. And so, you know, so our stuff looks pretty good. So it looks good on a portfolio. And again, that's always, you know, that's also a big, you know, one of the biggest questions that we've had over the years with Mount Freelance is like, should you list yourself as a creative director or an art director or a copywriter, you know? And it's always like, well, you know, there's kind of what you want to do, but also who's hiring, you know, and like the amount of people hiring a freelance creative director is much, much, much smaller than the people who can hire a freelance art director or writer. So, you know, if you really just want to manage people and you don't want to get your hands dirty, be that, and you have the reputation and the clients, sure, be a creative freelance director. But if you want to work consistently, doesn't matter how much experience you have, like you're gonna get a lot of work, because what agencies generally need is not another opinion and another person to give opinions on work, but someone to actually do the work and do good work.
Yeah. And I will say, in terms of putting your side business on your portfolio, what I found is 5 years ago, I didn't know anything about lead conversion online. I didn't know anything about optimizing websites. I didn't know anything about paid media, other than I just wanted someone else to do it. I didn't know anything about email marketing. I just ignored it. If it was on my deliverables list, I just wouldn't deliver it at the agency. It's just like, I think that there's a huge benefit in a side business in educating yourself and continuing to grow in terms of like what you're good at. And now the amazing thing is, if a small business had called me 5 years ago, I could make an amazing brand film for them, or a great brand identity, logo, look, print ads, that kind of thing. Now, if a business calls me, I mean, I can help them, you know, with revenue. I can help them with conversion. I can help them with branding. I can help them, like, I can help every aspect of their business now, just based on the fact that I've been in the trenches just learning, you know. And that's a really cool kind of benefit that comes from this. I think Andrew would attest to the same thing. I mean, where we were a couple of years ago and where you're at now, in terms of when a big agency brings you in, you actually understand like the whole picture of how this is going to work.
Nice. And love to see both Lisa and Catherine, not freelance members. So happy to have you. Peter, you as well. So yeah, do we have any more questions? Thanks.
There's one more I can read on here.
Okay.
I had to leave a great agency because of some life changes. I work freelance, remote now, and I really miss the agency environment and people. Do you have some tips for finding creative communities for freelancers?
we have.
Yeah, I mean, that Mount Freelance is first and foremost a community, and it is one that we do charge for. So I mean, there's that piece of it, but there's a really great community there, and it's growing. And one of the things that you touched on is like kind of one of the reasons we created this is like it can be lonely out there being a freelancer or even being a small business owner. Very few people are kind of on that path with you, and your relationships oftentimes kind of become more transactional because that's kind of the path that you're on with freelance. So I really, Anonymous, I really do feel I feel for you, because I really miss that environment too. There's some of the greatest people I've met, and just the extra time that we would just get eating lunch together, or in between meetings or before or after a meeting, just getting to know people or laughing, or man, I'm hungry for that time again. But there are, I think we're kind of like all kind of working through proxies of community right now with remote stuff, and Mount Freelance is potentially a great place for that as well. But I think that I think a lot of kind of communities, like say Working Not Working, we've done a little bit with. I think people are trying to do their best to kind of connect people, and it's a challenge.
Yeah, I mean, I think the other thing is if you have a network of if you have other friends who are freelancers, just to say, hey, propose, hey, let's do a Friday happy hour, and just, we can reflect on the week, or let's do a Monday accountability group where let's just get on and, we can each share about like what we've got going on this week, what we're trying to accomplish. And yes. Telling my daughter, yes, she can have some popcorn, but hopefully she'll go lunch afterwards.
Oh, yeah.
Although open a small, she got the giant Costco, like makes anyway. This is my issues. But yeah, I mean, I think that I think everyone's in the same boat. So to reach out, and we had some friends who I think we're doing like a freelance holiday party every year, which was pretty awesome. Where they
that was fun.
Get everyone together and and just get a reservation at a restaurant, and if that's I think so you can recreate. I mean, it takes work, but I bet if you reached out to a bunch of your freelance friends, a couple of them wouldn't be up for it, but I bet a lot of them would be like, oh my gosh, it's exactly what I want. Is a chance, it doesn't have to be working together side by side with open windows all day, although I know people who do that. But just, to create that community is really important now more than ever. We have microwave popcorn, and she literally opened the huge Costco that's so big. It's going to go stale. Come on.
Oh my gosh. Well, you know what you're having this weekend.
Lots of smart food. Talk about
lots of eating and popcorn.
Yeah, is it really any more healthy than any other popcorn, or is it just, I don't know.
That is good.
Well, hey, I think we've got, if anyone, one last question, or we can just say thank you so much for everyone for spending some time with us, and super good questions. And we're, Aaron and I are available, so if
there's please share that you can get a free business mentor here, and it's score.org is the website, and I've done it and it's been really helpful. That's from Catherine. So score.org is a place where they're matching up maybe small starting startups with business mentors. So that could be really cool. I think I've heard of it, but I haven't checked it out. So
Oh,
Okay, Andrew, I guess it's just time for your drum solo.
Oh, do you see?
Thank you guys so much. Really appreciate it. It was really interesting to hear you guys' perspective on all that. You know, Creative Week's almost over. We have one more panel today at 5 p.m. Eastern with the two women from K in Black, Catherine Freund and Hillary Black. So if anyone's interested in hearing them speak, you can always get tickets for that still. Otherwise, thank you very much, and looking forward to hopefully seeing you guys if we do this again next year. Thank you.
All right, thanks for having us, and thanks for everyone for showing up and for being part of the sideshow.
Yeah.
All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to send you guys a new invite for something. So you'll get that in just a minute, and we can end this one.
Cool. All right.
Okay. Thanks a lot.